We've been away for some time, obviously. We needed a rest too, just like you also needed a rest. I mean, United result is something else. As for the league, we know we've written it off. So, interestingly, we didn't bring you any review after the game against Wolves for obvious reasons. But we are here once again. A lot has happened. Right after the Wolves game, a lot has happened. And it has nothing to do with this season. It has everything to do with next season in terms of our recruitment. And it's been names that are being chased, names that are being confirmed, and also names that are being cancelled. This week, a lot of United fans have gone through a sort of roller coaster where 13 names that they expect would be signed have been quashed. I know Kwame is one of them, and a few other colleagues of ours who still hold on to the dream, but are still trying their best to come to reality or to come to terms with reality. Kwame, great to be back on the podcast once again. I hope you are doing good.
I couldn't actually wait for us to do this again because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to digest. There's a lot to break down.
A lot, like
quite a bit.
The whole lot. I see you have your laptop before you. I can imagine the kind of things you'd scribble down to talk about. But as usual, I know what to do. Anytime you come on this podcast, remember to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's very, very important for us. And also, thank you very much for all of you who subscribe and watch our podcast. We truly, truly appreciate you for all that you do for us on this podcast. Let's make a quick turnaround. When we come back, I'll get to Kwame. We'll break down the issues here on United and everything. All right, thank you very much. Welcome back to the podcast here on United and Everything Football. Kwame is here with me. Kwame, it's been a whirlwind of information, especially on the transfer market. Let me start with the popular one, which is the Matheus CUNHA one. Before the game against United at Old Trafford, we saw him doing some shenanigans, rubbing his hands on the turf and trying to rub it around his legs and all of that. Those Brazilian superstitions. I see a lot of South American players do that a lot. But generally, let me pick your thoughts on what you make of this whole strategy with regards to our transfers.
Even before we get into the transfers, let's just do a very quick one on what happened on Sunday. I mean, it's not a review per se, but it's just a few tidbits from that. The emphasis on that day was on youth. It was basically on youth because we had a couple of players who had who started the game, who back that many people had not heard about. Another 21 player, but then I think it is a captain of the under 21s. But the under 21s is this yo-yo team, yeah. People mainly concentrate on the under 18s and not the under 21s.
Yeah.
And he had a plethora of injuries, so he's not somebody who was always on the lips of many people. But I think he had a very good debut. Yeah. He was excellent. He's right-footed, but played on the left-hand side. Still could use his left foot. Very, very useful on the ball. What I did notice about him is very good size. There's emphasis on size when it comes to the centre backs that we are recruiting, especially at academy level.
Yeah.
And he did not look out of place. He actually looked good. And the reason I'm talking about this centre back situation is we need solutions internally because there are areas on the pitch that I'm sure we'll get to that we need to recruit in midfield and in attack.
Yeah.
So the more solutions we find in defense, the better, rather than hoping that we would have to spend another 40-50 million on the centre back. The other player is Harry Amas, who looked fantastic. Harry Amas' agents came out today to talk about the fact that he had options, but then he chose Man United. And then even in January, he could have been loaned out, but he backed himself to stay and fight for his place. And it's been worth it. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't look out of place. He looks like a baby Shaw, a baby Luke Shaw. His attributes are very similar to Luke Shaw.
Very, very similar. Very, very
as an 18-year-old at Southampton, it's the same. And Luke Shaw is actually his role model, so it's not out of place. I think we have a future player in there. I don't expect us to spend any more money on defenders. Diogo Leon is coming back. Is coming from Paraguay. They're so stocked in defenders. The only problem is that they are young, so you're not really sure as to whether they are guarantees for you. When it comes to the crunch. But then Amorim has to develop these players. It's part of his job. That's the plus side of things. The negative side of things is that we're profligate on the day. We were the better side for sure, but then we wasted a lot of chances.
Yeah.
None so than Rasmus Højlund, who was all over the place. Even when we did go down, we should have come back into the game. I'm done with him. I'm done with him. I've told you. I told you that's not going to work. He came into the club at the wrong time for a very bad price, and it's just too much pressure right now. There is nobody else to relieve him. There's now Zegzi is also injured. It's like he has to fight his way through being broken. He's a broken player, but he has to still find his way through. It's just not going. Ericsson was away from Mason Mount. And what is he ever going to come good? You don't know. We should have at least taken a point from the game, but somehow we lose to the only chance that Wolves had from a set piece, which I felt that Onana should have done better. But what else can we say about Onana too? And we lose the game. Again, this is the bad part, the very bad part. It's 13 losses in 22 games in 22 league games for Ruben Amorim. It's 50 conceded since he came. I mean, if we are not scoring, I understand the reason why we are not scoring. The fact that we have probably the worst offense in the league, in my opinion. But how come we can't stop shipping goals? 53 goals conceded in your short tenure is just way too much. A lot of them too from set pieces. Another set piece goal. Yeah. Not a corner, but then a free kick, another set piece goal. It's just repetitive things that are happening in the bad lights, which we still have to talk about, despite the fact that some people will hear us talk about players not being good. But when we talk about the manager's tenure not being good, they seem to be upset about it. The facts are the facts. So then how do we sort of fix this thing? And it goes into the transfers. You get what I'm trying to say? Because everybody sort of admits the fact that our squad is not up. It's not up to it, and it needs rebuffing. Needs to be. What I'm hearing is just a few names, but then many people would say we probably need far more than the names that we are hearing. So it gets to our offense. There's news that CUNHA and
Liam
Delap have been identified as the attackers to come into Manchester United to help solve the problem. First of all, what I would want to say, the positive to this, I'll spin off to the negative to it, but then the positive to this is we want to do early business. We are uncharacteristically doing early business. Manchester United is not known for doing business before the end of the season, but it speaks to the urgency and the desperation of our situation. We cannot wait. We can't. And I think all this is made possible by something that you said in our group chat. A reminder, when people were upset about it a few months ago, Omar Barada said all those changes that are happening at a football club, people losing their jobs, all those redundancies, everything is sort of aimed at trying to get our men's football team, the opportunity to get stronger. So true to their word, they are willing to spend £92.5 million on these two players in the line queen without having to sell players. The reason why this is possible is we've let go about 500 staff over the past year under Ineos, which is supposed to be estimated to save us between 80 and 90 million pounds per year. That's alone. There is more. People have canteen food, all those things have been seen. All you're talking about is about the club saving around over 100 million pounds per year. So if they are putting this to the transfer of a couple of players very, very early in the positions that are of absolute need, then it's heeding to what they promised that they would do. But then to do further business, of course, with PSR and all that, we have to sell players to be able to continue to bring in more players. But it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense in the sense that we are bringing in attackers. As to the choice of the forwards is the problem. People asked us on Twitter, in other social media groups, as to whether CUNHA is even somebody that we should be pursuing in the first place. He's coming into the club as a number 10. Why I like the CUNHA signing is for a couple of reasons. He is matured and experienced. He has been about everywhere. He's played in the German league, played in the Spanish league, and played a couple of years in the Premier League. And he's not been a pushover in the Premier League. He's somebody who has had an upward trajectory in the Premier League.
If
He
I if
is
I'm
a
if I'm not
ball carrier.
mistaken, this
He's
should be his
strong.
third season in the Premier League, right? Because I think he
Third
came
season, yes.
somewhere in
He is
January.
strong, a
Yeah.
ball carrier. Yeah, third season. Third season. And his statistics have always improved. This season, despite Wolves struggling, I think he scored if I'm not wrong, about 14 goals for
Mm,
them
mm,
in the league, which for a relegation threatened side like Wolves, he's done his best to keep them up. In January, he had an extension to his contract, which put in a new release clause of £62.5 million. And the deal for me was very simple: keep Wolves up. And after Wolves have guaranteed their safety, you are free to go wherever you go. So it is to no surprise that right after they beat us at Old Trafford
mm,
to secure their Premier League status, Wolves have literally given the go ahead for Manchester United to negotiate with the player, and all those other things are happening. He's done his best. He what this team lacks is power, speed, aggression, especially in the final third, and people who are able to do things on their own, similar to what Bruno Fernandes is able to do on his own in the number 10 position. So you put two number 10s in a proper number 10 and somebody with the wing type sort of number 10 in Cunha in behind the striker. And these are two players that fits the system that Ruben Amorim usually normally deploys. The issue is with the other forward, which happens to be the lab. Kwame, I'm sure both of us know that the area of most concern is the center forward position, of which we, over the past couple of years, you said we've missed out on an experienced player in Hurricane a couple of years ago. We went with
mhm.
Hoyland. We went for Hoyland, and we've seen how it has gone.
Yeah.
Last year, when we could have made amends for that, we went in for an inexperienced, not a thoroughly inexperienced player, but somebody who 30 appearances before his injury, this is just an absurd start. And in the third season, when we were thinking that finally this is the time for us to go for that experienced player and right the wrongs of the past couple of seasons, but the club has opted for another young player in the lab who, despite having a very good season in the league,
Mm,
he doesn't have any other stats to back him beyond his one very good season in the Premier League, of which he has scored 12 goals for Ipswich.
mm,
I mean, there was a chance to sign Victor Gyökeres, somebody who had done a very good job under the manager in Portugal,
yeah.
but we decided that, or probably the player has decided that he wants to join a different club. That's been the noise. But with the Victor Osimhen situation, I was hoping that some way somehow we'll be able to bring him in. But it's unfortunate that Ornstein has burst our bubble by telling
Mhm.
us some facts that he's not even on our radar, and he further explained that finances was going to be the issue. And surprised because on this platform we have explained that finances was always going to be an issue when it came to Victor Osimhen. None beyond the fact that Champions League qualification is actually vital to this because you have to bring in more money to be able to afford players on Champions League wages. But even in this case, the rumor is that it's not even going to be a Champions League wage issue. There is the small issue of Saudi Arabia still retaining an interest in the player and probably is going to earn upwards of 400, 500, 600,000 pounds a week. And that is way beyond our scope.
Mm,
It actually goes beyond the scope of almost every European team, if you believe the rumor. So he's not even an option for Man United, or probably not even an option for any other Premier League team.
mm.
So then, where does that take us? It takes us into the territories of your Ekitikes and your Cheskos and your
Mm.
Delapes, and
The, the,
Manchester
the,
United
the
have
young
opted for
forwards.
Jason Wilcox. I'm not enthused. I wouldn't sit here and say I'm very hopeful of the fact that he's going to come good because I've seen this movie a couple of times. I want to be proven wrong. I want to see him come in and go like, okay, fine. The difference between him and Hoylund and Zexi is that he's somebody who is homegrown, has Premier League experience, has worked with Wilcox before, has lived and worked in Manchester before whilst playing for Manchester City's academy, and is more familiar with the terrain, has this hunger, has this desire, has this passion, this energy. His hold up plays slightly better than both Zexi and Hoyland, and then he'll probably come into Manchester United and hits the ground running and become the new Harry Kane. It's just hopeful talk. I wouldn't base it on any other facts than
Yeah.
hope. I'm underwhelmed by it, but I can only remain hopeful that probably this works out.
Well, let's see how it goes. Myself, my opinion has on this issue, just like Kwame's. I've shared it a lot more times here on this podcast where I've spoke about our need for a senior striker. I have hope that we get an experienced striker so we have some players in the production line to learn from. Zegzi is still a young player. I don't know what happens to Hoylund, but David Ornstein dropped a lot of juices on United in the last couple of days. Something that is seeking to suggest that players like Hoylund, Garnacho are players that are likely to be on the market. For Kobe Mainoo, it's likely that he will stay. So I feel if perhaps if you are getting a Liam Delap, you should still, and you are going to offload Hoylund, perhaps you should still get an experienced striker to come in and then do the job for the team, because we've made a mistake once, we've made it twice. Ineos is about to do it for the second time. I don't want to call it a mistake this third time, but I believe they are taking an approach that they've used the first time that it didn't work. The club before they came in had done that. So that situation has happened twice. If the situation happens a third time and we go into the season and our strikers are not giving us goals, and we're having to rely on our midfielders and our other attackers to give us goals, I'll be worried, because a striker is supposed to score goals for the club. It's very, very important. The experience is very, very much needed. So I don't know how they will figure it out, but I would always, always, always suggest that the club do something about this whole point about getting in these experienced players to come in and do the job for the club. But Kwame, let's talk about other transfer issues. David Onsen has been dropping a lot of juices. I've just made mention of a few of them where he spoke.
Just before you jump into this here, I wanted to. I'm looking for this, but I can't find it.
Okay,
It's a post that's Goldrich, Mark Goldrich from
the
the
United
United
fan.
Stand
Yeah,
posted. It's a fan. I've seen it before, and even United People's TV have done a whole documentary on it. If I find a link, I'll probably share it with you so that you can share it in the description when we do post this video. It was about a Sporting fan who had spoken about how Ruben Amorim turned Sporting's fortunes around
yeah, I've read
in
it
terms
before.
of the how
I've read
he
it before.
rebuilt sport. Yeah, I'm looking for it. I just wish I could see it so that we could read it. We could
You
read
go
it
ahead.
for
I'll try and search for
our
it,
viewers, but then
and
I can't.
then
I can't seem to.
go ahead. I'll try and
Yeah,
search for it, and then yeah, make your
just
point.
go to just go to Goldrich's. Yeah, so I think what he was driving at was the fact that Ruben Amorim has been specifically chosen for this project, and this squad is being built in a way that the coach himself would want the squad to be built, because he's built Sporting Lisbon in a very similar fashion. And this is how he did it at Sporting Lisbon. If you can remember, fans broke into Sporting Lisbon's training ground and then did a
I have
whole lot
found
of
it. It was so
shenanigans
easy. It was so easy
just
to find.
before.
I found it. It was so easy to find. Let me read it. Let me read it.
So easy.
Yeah.
Kindly read.
All right. Hey there, Portuguese Sporting fan here. Good video and highlights of his strength. To give you further context, Amorim joined Sporting at literally the worst time in the club's history. The fans physically attacked the players, half left, and there was no money, and the coaches were being eaten. I don't know whether I was beaten that he was trying to write, by the dozens. Enters Amorim, coach for 2.5 years at the point. After 5 years at Sporting, after 5 years, Sporting is a top dog of Portuguese football and something that hasn't happened in over 50 years. This is beyond a unique feat, especially when your competitors have doubled the money. Now, the feeling here is of utter sadness. You are taking away a literal miracle, and yet you don't realize it's a kind
I
of.
think that's a different
That's
post.
a
I think
different
that's a
post.
different post.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
that's a different post.
okay,
I found the post. It
okay,
was posted. Margot posted this on the 23rd of April when this whole Delap CUNHA thing broke
okay.
out, and then it reads. I'm sure we can also roll it up so that you guys can
Yes.
see it because
Yeah.
it's been bulleted. This was posted by a Sporting fan in November about Amorim. Everyone should read it.
Hmm.
Point number one, don't expect a miracle. This is the absolute most important point of all, hence why I open with it. When Amorim took charge of Sporting, he also started midway through the season,
Yeah.
although much later on. And at the end of that season, Sporting finished fourth, worse than the usual third at the time. You know, Sporting is the third best team and usually finish third behind Porto and Benfica.
Yeah.
Amorim needs months to implement his style of play, which we'll touch upon later. And just like Sporting at the time, Man United's team is not very compatible with it. With that said, it goes to point number 2. Expect big players to leave, Rashford and go. Amorim will most likely sell players that might have been huge assets to the team previously, but simply don't match his style and may even distract from it. Rashford and co. Again, probably Garnacho and co. as Austin has said.
Yeah.
If you look at the team Amorim inherited when he took charge of Sporting and the team with which he started his next season, you will see what I mean. Then the third point is the locker room management. Amorim has always made it a stipulation that the players he manages are positive influences on the locker room dynamics, getting rid of players that might be huge assets but otherwise damage the team in some way. Still speaking to the likes of you know who. As examples, you have Marcus Acuna, who was one of the best players that Sporting had at the time, but as he was an extremely hot-headed person, I think Marcus Acuna was the one who used to play for Sevilla. Argentina.
Left back.
That Pitbull. Yeah. And then Islam Slimani. You remember Islam Slimani? Algerian centre forward.
Very well.
Which returned as Sporting fan favourites and immediately started scoring goals, which our main strikers weren't doing. Slimani, however, started getting cocky and was immediately pushed to the sidelines and left after only half a season.
Yeah.
This is quite typical with a lot of players who had to leave before the January transfer window. And then to the tactics, that's point number 4. Expect a 3-4-3 every time. The stubbornness, it will not change. All the time. In fact, he put an emphasis. Every time, all the time. Amorim barely deviates from this formation. Instead, changing the players in the starting 11 depending on the characteristics he wants the team to display. I think we've seen a lot of that already, haven't we? And then it goes on to the 5th point, the transfer policy, which is of interest to us now. As previously stated, Amorim most likely won't even consider someone who could destabilize the team's backroom dynamics. And that means a lot of big established players are unlikely to join, as tensions could arise from that. That's what I was saying to you, that they've chosen a manager for this specific project because both align with each other. That is how come we are going for younger players instead of the big established names.
Yeah.
We've all seen the ego of Osimhen, despite the fact that he is prolific in front of goal and all that. Yeah. He comes with a lot of other dynamics that probably this coach may not buy into, but he would rather want his own Gyökeres now, because Gyökeres came into Sporting from Coventry at the age of 22, 23 years old. And it's a top class footballer at the age of 25, 26 years old. Yeah. We are probably getting the lap at the age of 22 years old, and probably by 2028, when he's 25 years old, similar to Gyökeres, he could be a world-class player and be a starting centre forward for England national team. That is the hope. That is the projection. So in continuing with that, transfer policy. Yeah. As previously stated, Amorim most likely won't even consider someone who could destabilize the team's dynamics, and it means a lot of big established players are unlikely to join, as tensions could arise from that. And if Slimani's case shows anything, is that Amorim would rather have a strong team union than individual stars. Due to this, expect Man United to sign more young or lesser known players, also likely for cheaper, that have large amounts of potential. And this was the exact model that brought players like Gyökeres to Sporting. Are you resonating with
it? Is a lot of the thing that we say, I am very familiar with your game.
Very, very familiar. But the problem is Manchester United, as Manchester United fans, you're not familiar with this kind of policy. You're not familiar with this game. But I guess we have to, we better get used to it, I guess, because this is going to be the foreseeable future if this manager is going to remain at the football club. So it's not just a case of some people were speculating. As Godwin himself was speculating. Wilcox wants the lap whilst the manager wants Osimhen. No, they both want the same thing. They both want this, which is a young team. They will probably be in favor of signing young, dynamic players that they can develop into world-class players. The sixth point, it's just like the 2 points, so we'll be done very soon. The sixth point is Youth Academy.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen the tweet now, yeah?
I've seen it. Yeah.
If Amorim can get any players from the Youth Academy, he definitely will. We've already seen that with the emergence of Amas, for example, who backed himself to stay and finally has been given a chance. I'm sure there will be other players too. We are recruiting young African French players into the academy. We already have Sekou Kone in the academy.
Yeah.
They are all being in the pipeline, and I'm sure brought in through the pipeline by Innocent. I'm sure a lot of them will get a look in along the way. Strangely enough, Amorim is one of the few very known Portuguese managers that has this sort of youth academy policy, which is funny because almost every Portuguese manager follows it. They're just not well known for it. And the last point, more than 11 players. If Amorim is given enough time at Man United, expect him to assemble a team where the players sitting on the bench are just as capable as the ones on the pitch, differing only in what aspects are stronger in their game. Basically, all he's saying is we are going to develop a very good squad if we allow Amorim to continue to build the squad the way that we are seeing it, the way that we are not absolutely delighted about, but we are seeing it. A lot of young players who can develop together. Ultimately, whoever he brings on from the bench will be almost as good as anybody who is starting. A good squad that can compete on all levels. So, all I'll say to this in conclusion, my summary is, it sounds good. It sounds hopeful, right? Personally, I do not have any conviction that any of these things will come to fruition, but it still offers you hope. You can only hope that everything works out for him as perfectly as it did work out for sports. The reason why I'm saying this is Manchester United is a whole different beast when it comes to sports in Lisbon. The dynamics are so different. You can be so patient at Sporting because there are two other big clubs who are expected to be more successful than you.
Yep.
But Manchester United, it doesn't matter whether Liverpool are doing well now or Manchester City are doing well now. The expectations will always be the same.
Yep.
We are 17th, but the expectations next season, when it starts, every single football fan will be expecting you to challenge for the title summer. We don't even have to be realistic. That's just how we are. I mean, reality would say a top 4 finish would be good. But trust me, there will be multitudes of Manchester United fans who will be expecting you to be competing. And when we see these kind of transfers, the laps, and then what's not, it doesn't really inspire. But we know that it is in line with exactly how you want to work. And if they're going to give you things, you're going to get your way in terms of how you want things to work, we should expect a lot from you. Right? He himself, I'm sure he expects a lot for himself in terms of challenging for the Premier League title as soon as possible. So, fingers crossed, Kwame. That's all I'll say. Fingers crossed.
I went through the comment section and some people are like, this is like a carbon copy. I saw Beth talking about this is
the same thing.
This gives me a lot of faith. Actually, relax. What is it? You have no idea.
One thing is so revealing is everything that you see there is actually happening.
It's happening.
That's why Ruben Amorim comes to sit there and says, despite the fact that we are losing matches and then everything, we have a plan.
Yes,
and everything seems to be on course. It's hard for you to appreciate it because the results are not. Yes. And at the end of the day, it's a results business.
Yeah.
That's how come I don't let him off the hook because at the end of the day, it's a result business because there is no guarantee that even if you're given the time next season, you would 100% things around. So, I mean, I get it. You would need time. You would need your own signings and everything. But in the moment, things aren't going well. And it's okay to say things aren't going well. If he does turn things around, it will be very okay for us to also come and sit here and say, kudos to you, kudos to the club, kudos to Ineos, giving you all the patience, all the time, all the support to be able to turn things around. There will be no shame in calling it. In fact, we'll be glad to call it.
Yep.
Wouldn't we all want that as much?
We all want the club to succeed. At the end of the day, that's all we want. So what's the whole this thing? We all want the club to succeed. So We'll see about that. Against Bournemouth, quick one. We have just about 2 minutes for the Zoom to end.
You might as well just keep to next midweek because I don't know the team to expect. I don't know what to expect. If we lose again, it's just another 13th loss in 23
Yeah,
games.
Diogo Dalot is out for the season as well.
Oh, you see, I called it earlier thinking he would probably get injured way earlier than this because he's just been playing too many games.
Way too much.
Eventually, it's caught up with him, unfortunately. It is what it is.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast here on United Everything Football. It's been a pleasure coming your way. We really appreciate you. We love you, that you are always a part of us. And thank you for subscribing. And those who have not been subscribing yet, or who've not subscribed yet, please remember to do so. Also, leave a comment. Let's hear from you. It's very, very important for us. So, we'll end it here. We'll come after the game against Bournemouth. Hopefully, we get some good results. But whatever happens, we'll be here. And then we'll come again in midweek. Then we'll do a proper analysis of the game against Athletic Bilbao. My name is Kwame. I'll see you with Kwame Nchubu. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you on the next one. Have a great time. Bye-bye.